About 8:40 this morning, we received 911 calls, multiple calls, reporting a building explosion in this area. Original calls identified that it was the pool house, that it was the elementary school, and that it was apartment buildings. A multitude of agencies, city police, county police, fire rescue, responded. As you see behind me, when we arrived, we found a building, it's 826 is its building number, a building with evident signs of explosion and collapse and ongoing fire occurring at that moment. It's now just about 10:15, 10:30. There still is active fire in the structure. There has been a gas-fed fire in the basement of the structure that is being addressed by the fire crews, and work is undergoing with our utility partners in Washington Gas to shut off the natural gas to that building. The building has sustained a significant explosion, resulting in a structural collapse. That impacts the building of 826 and the building of 828. We have also evacuated 824 because it's connected to 26 and 830. It appears that we're dealing with 6 apartments, technically condos, but 6 units per building. So for the 4 buildings, we have 24 units of residents displaced. Red Cross Emergency Management is on site and assisting us and those residents. Transport injured person information. As of this moment, we have transported 10 people from the scene. 2 people have been treated and refused transport and remain on the scene. 10 have been transported, 2 were treated and remained on the scene. Of those 10, 2 of them were transported with critical injuries to a local trauma center. The remaining 8 were transported with mild to moderate injuries to several hospitals in the county. Of those 8, 4 are adults, 4 are children. There are no children in the critical grouping of 2. Early indications identify that maintenance staff on site used a painter's ladder or a maintenance ladder here locally and rescued a resident from a rear balcony, as well as assisting a resident who was on the rear of the building after the explosion. Through a collaboration of Montgomery County detectives, Gaithersburg City detectives, and fire rescue investigators, we are diligently working to identify all of the occupants, and our focus is 826 and 828. Collaboratively, then we'll work with 830 and 24. We still have not refined that number yet, so we still have the presumption and still working on the basis that there are unaccounted for personnel. They may be out of the building, they may be in the building. Again, I use the words they're unaccounted for. Once we get to the opportunity to say that they were fully accounted for, we will provide that update. This is early in the event. While the event has been going on for about an hour and a half, this is going to be a multi-day event. We'll be here for several days. For those that were at Littonsville Road or Arliss Street, we need to work through the structural stability issues of these 2 buildings, then ensure they're secure, then get into the buildings for both life rescue, life recovery, as well as investigative purposes. So again, this is going to be a multi-day event. We will be here for several days. There is a large team being assembled on site of agencies and support personnel from our utility partners, from our city partners, county agencies, and federal agencies that are here to assist, as with Littonsville, as with Arliss. The operations will be slow and meticulous, as the safety of the responders are a priority, as well as the safety of anybody still in the building. We want to do everything to benefit their possible rescue. if there are people in the building. I'm going to pause there, let any of the other folks behind me make any other informational statements, and then I'll come back for questions. Anybody?
Are there still active rescues going on, and what is this dealing with a gas explosion? What can you say about that?
So, repeating just for the volume and the information, the question was, is there still active rescues going on? No. The building of 26 and the vast majority of the building, half of the building of 28 is unstable and has been evacuated and is not safe for my personnel to go in. We have completely searched the other half of building 28, all of 24, and all of 30. But that does leave us with a grouping of 9 apartments that could be impacted. Number of residents between those 9 apartments and those 2 buildings that we'll be trying to account for.
So you don't know how many are unaccounted for?
I asked about the gas element of this.
I'll get to the gas in a second, Darcy. We do not have a full accountability of all of those units yet, so we can't say, don't know if there's unaccounted for people.
You don't even a number as to who might?
We don't have that information at this point.
Okay.
We've been working well with the property management and working through that. The second question that was originally offered was gas fed. I did identify, and it was clearly evident to my personnel and myself, that there was a gas fed fire in the basement, probably about an hour after the explosion occurred. That was visible from the front of the building. That is what Washington Gas is working to control the gas at the street level, and then when that gas is off, that fire then gets extinguished, and then we work to, from a distance, place or put out any hot spots in the structure. I'll get to Brad.
Yeah, Chief. So I've already had a couple residents tell me that there was a smell of gas that got out.
Okay.
And that there was a gas leak last week that had been repaired. Have you gotten that far yet?
So the information about gas smell this morning had been reported to our investigators. Our 911 center has checked, and this morning there was no cause prior to the explosion for a gas leak or a gas smell to Montgomery County 911. Prior to this morning, that information is still being gleaned and sorted through. We don't have information about last week.
Can you go back over the numbers? You have a total of 10 injured now?
Correct. 12 have been injured. 10 have been transported. 2 were treated and remained on the scene. Of the 10 transported, 2 are critical and taken to local trauma centers. 8 were with mild to moderate injuries, taken to different hospitals here in the county. Of those 8, 4 are children. Neither of the critical is a child. Does that help, Bruce?
Yeah. And can you go over, Chief, if people ever smell gas, what should they do?
Absolutely. Smelling gas is a safety feature designed in the gas. When you smell that rotten smell, when you smell that unusual odor, the first action is to call 911. Absolutely. Our gas partners say that front and center on their website. If you smell gas, call 911. Evacuate the building first, then call 911 from the outside. Do not go back in the building if you smell gas.
So 826 is the main building for this happening?
The collapse involves about equal parts of 826 and 828. The original fire building, or the original reported address that we got back to, was 826. So too early to tell us which is the main building.
So you said 911 was called at this morning. What is your response to the folks who are upset saying this is happening in the county yet again, another possible gas?
1 second, Stephanie. The other buildings are 24, which is attached to 26, and 30, which is attached to 28. There may be structural issues with those buildings, but that's why they've been